We're at 7:04.
Oh, let's be disorderly. Let's.
Okay.
I love our meeting. That's just.
We have several minutes. And, do we want to take them as a block? And there's a correction to the special meeting from November 6th that was sent out that wasn't, it differs from the version in our packet.
I thought the correction was to the version of.
No, it was the November. It was not the 6th.
Oh,
September
It
meeting?
was a September meeting.
September,
You
okay,
noted that in minutes, or is there something else?
yeah,
So
yeah.
if someone makes a motion to accept as a block.
But do we need to know the correction, or is it what we saw?
Yes, so there is a correction which Ken has put out. The correction is the block highlighted in yellow. Let me just share for Zoom here. So Ken provided the following correction here, which was an expansion of the open space evaluation criteria review items, explaining various items further.
That one,
About process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
I misplaced a page of notes when I was preparing the minutes.
Motion,
And that's what prompted you to
Yes.
send out that.
That was Ken. Ken caught it, not me.
oh. So motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
anyone opposed? Okay, I don't see any public here. So that brings us to the management plans.
Management plans.
Okay,
I have a new draft of the management plans based on our notes from last time. To run through, we have from the top, conditions as of last site walk with the date of that, with a specific attachment appendment for meeting minutes from that site walk. We have added in the acquisition type with a good note to reference the open space acquisition history by V. Weatherill, immortalizing you forever in our documentation.
But it won't always be by me, so I really hope you are.
You're too modest, but at your request. Okay, otherwise, other important things that we noted was in deed and survey information and deed restrictions, liens, easements, noting type, date recorded, and volume and page in both of these. We already organized them that way, but it's important to call it out for each one of these items. Moving down into the conservation values of the property, this stayed the same, as did the potential threats, though we did do a bit of changing in related to plant parasites / forest health threats, broadening that a little bit, because there are some, we spent some time going back and forth on whether or not we were talking about invasive insects, where it's technically the beech leaf disease is a nematode, and that's a whole different thing. And then we started getting into broader language, and so using a little bit broader language there just to capture everything.
What is plant parasite?
What
is a plant parasite?
a parasite on a plant?
I think of that as intestinal worms.
Well, I mean, anything that, so like parasitism,
It's like
parasitism,
eating something.
yeah, but like the
Yeah.
emerald ash borer would be a parasite on the ash tree, right? A parasite is anything that would be infecting or infesting a host and causing it damage.
So you would include a fungus as a parasite.
Yeah,
That-
if we had a particularly bad fungal strain that was damaging a bunch of the trees in an area, yeah, it would include funguses. Any of those could be parasites. I think the
Flagellum
difference is
disease.
it's a parasite, not a parasitoid, because it's not using it as a reproductive mechanism only. And but now we're getting into ecology that the
Yeah,
general public
it's
probably
really
doesn't need on this
good.
recording. Just to make sure we are recording, right? Okay, good. The biggest things that we changed was the property specific management goals and actions. So previously what we had tried to do, and by we, I mean I, and by tried, I mean foolishly attempted, was to put every single one of the POCD goals into these with the then goal of eliminating backwards. And I think we discussed and decided that really doesn't work. So what we should do is if there are specific goals for the property, we call out what the goal is and the actions. If it has a POCD section that supports it, we reference it here by number such that you can then cross-reference to the POCD, which makes it nice and easy for my grant funding applications. Term, criticality, and resource demand were things we talked about, and I just put some samples in here. What's the importance, long-term, short-term? Is it labor capital demand? Ideal frequency of how long should we do it, and then the year last completed, which tells you whether or not we're actually getting there. Yes.
There is a problem.
Okay.
I gave this a test run this afternoon.
Okay.
Word. And the last year completed is off the screen, out of the document. As you can see, it doesn't line up with the other columns. So
Interesting.
I don't know what happened.
I can
there,
play
but
with
something
formatting.
You can make codes for term, like have it go vertical and then S and L,
Yeah.
instead of having to spell out short and long.
When I had, yes, I can use some coding down at the bottom, and that would make it shorter. Sometimes it is if you're in horizontal layout, which I think is a better way. Printing landscape would probably be better if you try to take this in the field, because just with table layout, I find that is an easier way to read when you've got it on a clipboard. But depends on who's using it. But I think I tried to get everything that was mentioned in our previous discussion of these into this revised template. And in attempting to do that, as I was going through and checking to realize, all right, so what do we have left? I realized that I failed to schedule the Shelter Falls site walk. We failed to get together to walk Shelter Falls. And in some ways that's good because now there's a beaver problem at Shelter Falls. And the trails are less navigable than they were before. So that will be, I think we should go out there at some point in the next 2 weeks with the old plan and this one, and then figure out how do you code, there's a beaver problem. There's a specific, we're doing that, we should do a test run of, all right, well, this is what the old plan says, how do we coordinate in this? I think though that this feels good to me looking at what this says and the way that it's written out. We'll make it a little bit more modest, and I'll make sure that the formatting works out. But in terms of this,
Okay, well, we have goals there. The other thing is, I came up with for Dorwart Lions Field, a whole list of not goals, but action items.
yes. So where is it? Yes. So the way that I thought about this is that in the POCD, we have like goals, and within goals, you have nested actions, right? So you could have a common goal here and then just ditto for a few for required actions because they may have different things in there. We could pop it out to its own column and then like have things nested in subtables. But
That works. So
Yeah.
the goal would be relating back to the POCD.
not necessarily, right? I think in general, the POCD is such a broad document, as we've talked about, that in general, you're going to be able to reference something in the POCD. You don't have to. I may go through and just add them, but the specific required actions, I just think it makes sense that if the town's primary planning mechanism does goals, strategies, and actions where each one is nested, then here we would do goals and actions and they would be nested, right? In the same kind of nesting doll Matryoshka way. So
Okay, I'm starting to understand where you're going there.
And
Yeah,
also
yeah.
These are these are goals specific to a property. These,
Yeah.
for example, let's say Shelter Falls. Monitor the beavers.
Monitor the
That
beavers.
would be a goal.
Right,
That would be specific to this property.
right. And then actions for that specific goal would be, during multiple, each season, check water level and integrity of nearby structures, right? And if,
Yeah,
we have to put in some sort of a water level adjustment device, then that becomes a consequence of those, right? That becomes an action. And so, yeah, I will code these, Charlotte. That's a good idea. I'll put in a series of asterisks here and have underneath what the coding for those is.
Going back to the infrastructure
Yes,
tabulation,
infrastructure.
you have this idea of developing a database for pictures and GIS and maintenance. Should you have a check column to whether it has been entered into that database?
Yes, and have a
And if it isn't, an action item would be to enter that.
enter it. Yeah.
yeah.
So infrastructure geotagged. Oh, that's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, some of them we probably don't have the detailed geotag, but a lot of them we should, like bridges
Right.
and trail structures.
If it's built infrastructure, like
Yeah.
that, and then otherwise you can just strike an X through it for a natural
Should have
feature.
benches.
Holy cow, so how did I not have benches? Well,
Sue would be very upset.
Yeah,
we spent a lot of time and effort making sure that the benches are where they need to be. How did I miss that?
Because they're movable.
Some of them are really bolted in the ground.
yeah, this is an interesting thought, thinking of geocoding is referencing this signs with a mark on the map and a picture of the sign, so you know what was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. What it
With
looked
the-
like once upon a time.
But
If it winds up going for 10 to 20 years without maintenance, then we get to know what it looks like.
yeah.
Or put an air tag on it so you can find it when it's in a dorm room.
I was thinking the same thing.
That sounds really funny to me. I would love, particularly on the new signs that have had the multiple layers of board. If you slap an air tag on the interior layer of those, that would be very amusing. None of those have been stolen, by the way. Apparently being 8 feet up in the air,
It takes a
and
little of it.
really bolted into the ground makes it a little harder.
Challenging, yeah.
And they must not be as fun, because they're not old and woodsy. That's our corporate branding for you. Okay, those are all very useful. So one thought. So going back briefly to the Ken's minutes from September 11th. What we had, the status of the oldest plans that we are updating this round, which there are 7 of them, is that we have walked Coney Rock, Eagleville, 50-foot, and Merrow Meadow.
And Dorward.
And
Dorwart Lions.
Yeah,
So with Dorwart done, that means that it's only Shelter Falls and Sawmill Brook that are really out of date. And we haven't gone on site for. If we plan Shelter Falls for sometime in the next month, and then Sawmill Brook sometime in December, by the end of the year, we will have walked all of them. I would like to bring the draft plan out just to see if in the words I can start making notes on it
Yeah.
as we do our standard method of note taking. I'll slot in to take either 50-foot or Sawmill for doing the plan as we start to figure out how this runs.
yeah.
And then I think in that case, we'll be able to put all of the various notes and drafts that people have done into these plans and then bring them to council for approval sometime March,
Budget time.
sometime May.
Yeah,
We can aim for February. I always like to get things done sooner, but somehow working in the municipal world just lets me embrace everything gets done 3 months after I'd like it to.
we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
Sometime when it's done.
Yeah, sometime when it's done. That's a healthier
Yeah,
way to think.
Really is.
Okay.
I have just a general question on Sawmill Brook.
Mhm.
How far up are you gonna go with Sawmill Brook before it turns into Wolf Rock?
Good question. So,
Well,
Look
Wolf
at it.
Rock is,
Basically, the road. Yeah, basically the old road.
oh, don't do this to me.
That's what my computer did all.
GIS software, come on.
Yeah,
Easy
There we
man.
go.
What you're saying, that it's an easy man.
yeah,
The old road.
yeah,
yeah.
So. As a management unit. JT's land follows, and I'll throw on the trails maps so you can see. So. The town's open space and JT's start to overlap at kind of this 90-degree bend
Yeah.
in the stream, which is not that far north of the power line cut. I was out there recently, actually, with student researcher at UConn and the DEP concerning some rare threatened species in the general area and potential habitat creation, which I'll talk to you more about later. But following the trail, it stays our property until you hit the road. That old paper road in here, which you can see as a more defined shape. And I don't actually know if this trail compared to this map is showing that we're actually off of it, or if this is one of those artifacts of the fact that these are layers that may not be perfectly aligned
Off of what, the town?
off of the
property?
town property, ever so slightly in these sections.
Oh, yeah, and that, of course, the section where it takes a turn to the right,
Mhm.
That's the easement.
Cross this old road, and then we're into Wolf Rock.
I mean, there's a trail easement across that from,
Hmm.
I can't remember the name, the guy who bought the land from Vernon.
Grignano?
Yes,
Um,
there's a trail easement across his land.
so,
So that's a clear definition between town,
yeah,
or between
Yeah.
Sawmill Brook and Wolf Rock, just like you
Yeah,
said.
but that's also the nipmunk there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's.
yeah,
why
it's not,
they
yeah,
did it.
with the trails down in here. There's the foot access off of, which road is this?
Jacobs. Hill?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then of course the primary parking area for your own Puddin.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I figure we start here, go up, walk the trail through here, up through the power line, and then a little past, and then skirt around the edge of the big pond. There's not, well, the biggest challenge, I think, for actually assessing the state of the property is that while you stay almost entirely on the right hand of the streams that run through here, the Sawmill Brook, there's very little passage capacity onto the property over the power line here. It's wide and flooded in this section. And so in order to do an accurate assessment of the land over here, that may require further scouting and access through the power line cut.
Or you can come in from Sawmill Brook Lane.
yeah. Yeah,
Just
there's
go
a,
down.
there's
There's
a,
a little extension to
There's-
yeah.
the south.
Keep going down.
Yeah,
Oh,
Right
Right,
there, yeah.
yes, you're
Yeah.
right. So I suppose,
And I think it would be worthwhile looking at that.
Yeah.
Because we have no idea what conditions.
yeah,
Could you
That's a-
remind me, Michael, why some of the land is crosshatched? and
So
some is-
crosshatch is permanently protected because we acquired it with certain grant funding, whereas the non-crosshatched is acquired for open space, but not legally bound by a third party.
Mhm.
Some of that is subdivision open space dedication.
Which has a level of protection because of that.
Including it as permanently preserved.
It's actually a good,
That
point.
would really depend on how the deed ended up getting worded.
So it needs some stippling in it or something to say it's. town
well,
open
this is
space.
something there are a couple things we want to do to update the open space layer in general. There's some additional parcels that need to be on there for conservation easements and permanent protection. But since all of this really good work has been done on cataloging what everything is and how it's protected, would I'm attempting to schedule a get together of the GIS working group of the town, which is basically I need to get the assessor, the engineer, and myself in a room and then go over, all right, this is out of date. How do we want to make this look? I would like to bring some recommendations back to this body, probably in January, just about like, here's what we're thinking for open space. How does that sound, everyone? Because I think there is something to be said for there's like permanently protected with OSWA or federal funds versus open space acquisitions versus the two sections that we were discussing for agricultural open space preservation, the interaction of you can set it aside, and then if you try to take it out, you have to provide commensurate matching land. So yeah, I think what we'll do, Shelter Falls, meanwhile, since we're looking at the
Yeah, it
map.
strikes me as some of that would make for very cluttered maps.
It could, but if we just do, we could probably break it down into 3 types of cross hatching, right? Non-slashed and then kind of probably polka dotted or something like that. It'll
Yeah.
look distinct at a high angle, but it'll also provide some information. Shelter Falls,
The other thing is some of it, you don't necessarily need to have it graphically depicted differently. You just need to have subordinate data
Yeah,
that refines
yeah,
the category of protected.
and then note on the property card and then in the attribute table, what's going on with
So
that.
you can filter it if necessary, but it's not necessarily a graphical distinction.
yeah.
Right,
I think the big thing is get all that recorded in the property cards.
Good luck.
the Shelter Falls, meanwhile, smaller property, 2 access points. We've walked this one probably 2.5 years ago. I think this was the first property that I walked with this group. And so there's the access near the heap, and then there's the access off of Birch, yes.
Yeah.
And there's some beavers over here, and that's going well.
Yeah,
So that's
well, there's also de facto access through that section of Yukon Forest.
yes.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
So this section of Yukon Forest, which is not permanently protected, but which is managed as forest, is, and we have the trails that come up through here and connect right across from, what's this? This is Southwood. So we could, while we're out there, since we're planning, often the easiest place is to either park at the heap and go in this way or park along Birch and go in this way. We could hypothetically, as opposed to doing the standard route of kind of sticking to the northern area, we could take that southern route across, at least down to the property boundary to see what's down here. I don't know that I've walked that, but I think that would be important for checking the management plan, and
Yeah.
seeing the state of that forest.
Yeah, the other thing is that section that's across from across Birch that
Oh,
goes up
deep.
to
The
44.
deep property.
Yeah,
Over here?
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know what state that trail is in.
Did we go there?
We walked in
I think we remember.
Yeah,
Last time we were there, we
on
walked up
Wednesday
a
walk.
little ways.
yeah,
And then you get up to where there's not very good sight line on 44.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Back.
unfortunately, it almost gets to the old salt staging area, which
Yeah.
I thought not to publicize it, but to actually blaze the trail from there.
Yeah, it gets very close to it.
Yeah.
If it's still where
That's this
Yeah.
area right here.
Yeah, but it definitely needs work where it crosses the pipeline.
Hmm.
What, the water?
The water pipeline is tricky for you to figure out where the trail is on the other side of the space.
Who has management obligations on this? DEP?
I think it's been represented as an extension of Shelter Falls Park.
Yeah, wasn't
In
there
some of the
something about
Yeah.
them leasing it to us for a token?
I guess we'll have to
We
do
should,
some
Yeah.
research.
we'll have to do some research when we go out there to find out if it's part of the management unit. Because I've been looking at that and going, not my problem for the past 3 years, and if it is my problem, I should really know that.
Question on. Down on the bottom right of that image,
Mhm.
is that carriage house?
Yep.
Yes, so this is Carriage House Apartments.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that it probably wouldn't be well used, is it appropriate to explore a trail connection to the end of the carriage house road?
They make it,
Mm.
believe me. Well, I don't know whether they still do, but
Yeah,
there used to be entrances all the way along with everybody's mattresses, couches,
yeah,
other miscellaneous things, where they came in from carriage house. It used to be
Which
really,
becomes
The trash problem.
yeah.
yeah, I haven't been there lately, but up on the hill. it used
becomes
to
a
be.
history of littering dumping.
Yes, that would be it, yes.
Yes.
We've got a thing for that. It's in the draft.
Yeah.
At the end of that cul-de-sac is Yukon land, it is not town land.
And
By
that yellow.
the same token, there are trails
Yeah.
across the Yukon land.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm
And-
saying, I don't see that as the town's responsibility.
Well,
But if the town wanted to be friendly, they could say, okay, there's a trail coming out of Yukon at point X. We should see if our trail connects to point X on our property.
I'm just looking at the connecting of open spaces to neighborhoods concept that we've
Mm.
talked about.
Yeah,
And that's a connection.
yeah, we don't
Yeah,
have any
yep,
trails
yeah.
down
But I
into
mean,
that.
Yukon would have to be involved. It
You know,
seems.
they have to give a trail license along with the little piece of land between the end of the road and Yukon's boundary.
Yeah, see, and I do know that to get the sidewalk along the front there, the town used eminent domain.
Where's that?
Yeah, the sidewalk along Hunting Lodge,
Oh,
Yeah,
the section in front of
oh, it's got all little stop signs for the bikes.
well, yeah.
And then you cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go over
And
that
then
way.
down.
Yeah.
But it was an eminent domain action.
Okay.
Well, it seems like the first thing to do is to go and see if there is already an existing.
I wouldn't be, it's
Use
hard, it's
trail.
hard to say because there's no trail net. The trail net doesn't extend down into that area. But I wouldn't be surprised that one or two people wanting to go fishing would have walked through there.
Now, when it comes to, for the terms of updating the management plans, right? Obviously, it's important to walk the primary trails, and that's where most traffic is. But a particularly large portion of Shelter Falls is not
Permanently.
permanently protected, nor is it pathed really, officially. So I suppose when we've done some of the management plan walks thus far, when we've done, what was it, who we have? 50-foot cliff, the trails kind of run through the whole thing, and so we took all the trails through 50 foot, and I feel like we got a pretty good assessment of that. Marrow Meadow, I wasn't there, but Marrow Meadow convenient trail pathways. Dorwart Lions, we did a pretty good part, though we didn't get the very final section because we were running out of time.
Some of us walk that as individuals.
I wound up walking that as an individual later, citing things for a dog park, more on that later. Then there was Coney Rock with the weather limits, but then we went back out there and we walked it again. I'm just wondering, particularly for Shelter Falls and Sawmill Brook, it feels like we're gonna have to cut trail and just kind of wander through the woods in order to do these properly, and I think that's like an important part of these. So thinking about that in terms of, would it be useful to have some degree of instructions or some degree of note on any management plan that there's something to the effect of like a large portion of the property is not well traveled, and so it's more of a reserve area as opposed to recreation, right? These are all preserves, but like just as advice for future generations when all of us are not doing this anymore, right? If people are still looking into this for.
Yeah, so something about a phrasing that areas of this property are not have no developed trails.
But have value as preserved land.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good thought, yeah. You know.
Actually, the original thought was buying the Holenko property, the one with the entrances on, well, and with that little tongue of land. Yes, that was with the idea in mind, because it's sort of an old road that comes in there, the very narrow one at the bottom.
Yeah, that little tongue that
You know,
brought,
that just right next to
Yeah.
Heritage.
95.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we specifically asked for, so it could connect to the trail across the street at Sullivan Square where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the cellar on the square has a bike path coming in from campus.
From campus.
Yeah,
So, I mean, in fact, I mean,
Yeah,
point of getting that little strip of land was to make a trail out to Honey March Road.
We just never did.
yeah. I hinted the Yukon they should consider extending that bike path to Depot campus.
So I guess the question is, because this is another interesting question. When we have a history of when this was acquired, X was the goal, X was not done. And now the material conditions on the ground have changed because there's now a sidewalk all up this street, and there's a crossing in a trail from the property to a Yukon property, which gets you on the sidewalk, right? I suppose, here's another kind of philosophical question for the management plans. We have the open space acquisition history, which gives us that information, but then if material conditions have changed, do we anywhere in the plan make recommendations to not do things, right? Thinking about the way that we
Yeah.
write this, you
Yeah,
know,
the other thing that's going on
property
there,
specific goals.
yeah, is if you go back to the okay, scroll over so you can see the heat property, scroll down, yeah. Okay,
There we are.
see, that trail that they have ends up in the parking behind the
Yeah.
behind the
Here.
behind the Discovery building and the tennis court area.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
you know, there's a path which runs from that area and the sidewalk along, what is it, Discovery Way?
Yeah, Discovery Drive.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's one that goes up to the building up on the top too.
Yeah,
It's not in great shape, but when we were roaming around one
Yeah.
time, there's another one that goes up the hill
Yeah.
to that building.
and there's 2 or 3 informal paths from the back of, what I still think of as Jensen's, was it Rolling Hills now?
Yes.
Yeah, you know,
So I suppose, do in the management plans, we write something about interconnectivity goals
Mhm.
and, whether or not we feel like interconnectivity in the region is strong or weak. I suppose like it becomes less than proper, it's more than property specific, right?
Yeah,
But it's,
I don't think it's a specific to an individual management.
yeah,
plan. I think it's something that would be good to have somebody look at on a townwide basis. Trail network, sidewalks, and where people live.
yeah,
right.
okay. Well,
A good undergraduate program for a GIS person.
yeah, in this case, we have that section on abutting properties. And is that the place in the management plan form to list these connections?
I think.
Juliana, you had a
There is
comment?
one place for abutting.
Yeah,
Just in that, there might be something to be said for intact forest, depending on the condition of that area without a trail. Right.
Yeah,
So, if there's not many invasives in there, in the management plan, it might be worth noting that that area should be left as is, as opposed to creating openings with more trails, more invasives.
Good point.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, the invasives are actually coming from that little row of apartments along there.
yeah,
I don't know, I haven't been in there in a long time, but there used to be all sorts of stuff in the woods there.
yeah,
Oh, so maybe it's a moot point, but, where we can keep intact. I mean, we're talking about unfragmented forest in the POCD last week. So maybe as you were saying, Michael, having something in all the management plans about keeping areas intact where possible.
I think balancing that though, if we have large areas that don't have sensitive habitats that have potential for trails, and some of them might not because they might be all swamped.
yeah,
But if we have potential for a more robust trail network, especially on a parcel that's near a lot of people, that might help distribute the usage of the park.
Yeah, I agree. It's a balancing act. I'm just thinking about where it might be appropriate.
yeah.
But it's worth
If
recognizing.
Tom's
that-
trying to weigh
Sorry.
in.
If I remember right, in both those sections, there are, how can we put this, non-developed trails that are sometimes better developed than developed trails.
Yeah.
Remember that,
Yeah,
especially coming
we haven't
down.
been in there in a long time, so I don't know.
I suspect there's a lot of bike trails.
Especially coming down to here, and I
Not
think
too
there
much
was.
so
one
much
going
bike
Yeah,
up
trail
to-
as there was.
Juliana,
foot
Tom is
trail.
pointing to the tongues going out to Hunting Lodge
Yeah.
Road. Yeah,
But if it hasn't changed, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
a while since we've really walked it.
yeah,
I'm thinking that maybe what needs to be is to consider having areas that are not developed. Rather than saying there should be or there shouldn't be or whatever, that's one of the things that is part of the management plan.
Mhm.
To
Yeah, I mean, it's choosing to keep an area undeveloped is active management in a way, right?
yeah.
It's the active choice to do something, so, yeah,
No, I think,
okay.
there's a very nice knoll with pines on it
Mhm.
that.
I do remember that one,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And I'm
something here.
thinking, oh, it'd be so nice to have a trail up there. And then I said, no, it's nice not to have a trail up there.
Yeah,
So it is just, it's a balance, it's like,
Yeah.
what do you want to make accessible?
And the trail is a disturbance, we're talking about this preserved land and, there may not be a road, but a trail is a disturbance. It brings, stress to animals that live there. Maybe it makes something cats follow, brings people with their shit,
Yeah.
bring in garlic mustard seeds, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that's,
it isn't just this
Right.
question of, we need trails everywhere. If we talk about the value of untrailed places, then, we should actually say that out loud and not just have it fall off the side of the page somewhere.
Another aspect of those two parcels, in the Northwest Mansfield Management Plan, there was a recommendation to permanently preserve whatever open space there was.
Mhm.
And to me, this is an ideal candidate to finish preserving this area.
yeah,
Both of those parcels are developable. They have
Yeah,
enough dry
frontage.
land, they have access from Hunting Lodge Road.
yeah,
And to me, they're really, so what I'm thinking is, as part of the management plan, there might be an item to consider permanent preservation of parts of the property that are not permanently preserved.
yeah,
Well, back to the discussion, that little strip leading to Celeron Square. I think on all of the parcels now, because we're updating management plans, there are gonna be things that were never done, or were done and need to be done again. And there needs to be a mechanism to reevaluate whether there's still something to do.
So then in terms of. We have the standard management actions, which do say, things that may have been done. If it hasn't been done yet, what's a priority on it?
yeah.
I do think that one of the really important things to capture in kind of the overview, which is the history, is gonna be those historical artifacts of how the stuff that may exist outside of the open space acquisition history, but that is like the strange stuff about this land that if it was a specific unusual land use pattern, which now defines it, I'm thinking about, for example, like Moss Sanctuary, right? The fact that it was planted with plantation rows of pines, you can still see it on the GIS map, right? There's important things to note there because it provides us a little bit of that information. I think that the same can be said for things like property shape, right? And assessment of stuff.
Just a note for you, when we went to Moss Sanctuary and did a walk along the edge, there's a lot of broken glass. And
Yeah, it's
we
a,
probably should have somebody pick it
Fisher-
up.
Fisher
Hopefully
people.
somebody's already done it, but it's we had to keep the kids away from that area. So I was the only one who went out into that area.
At the pond or at the parking lot?
At the pond, yeah.
it's the access point where they do the most fishing.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
That just brought it to my mind just now.
Were they shooting? How did it break?
It's just beer bottles that they drop, there's some big
Drinking
rocks.
beer,
there.
not catching fish.
Wine bottle,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I almost slipped on it, but that's not a big.
Well, don't do that.
If I slip on it, no big deal.
I actually think that's the opposite of what it is. Okay, we have some good thoughts for our next sidewalk. I'll put out a one of those calendar coordinations for Shelter Falls next, and then Sawmill Brook near the end of the year, and we'll do 2 more, and then we'll have walked all of them.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Did you send out your draft template?
Yes.
As a separate document?
Yes, so that is
Okay.
here. This is the draft template. I left it in a Word document form because even though it is uglier on the viewer when you open it directly from here, when you download it, it's easier to use than having to then
Yeah.
turn it back from a PDF.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, did you get any complaints about the beaver?
the complaints I got about the beaver at Shelter Falls come from Jennifer Kaufman, who lives next to Shelter Falls, and walks that with her dog pretty regularly, and so is very aware of when the trail stops being functional. So I will pass that along to Planning Director Kaufman.
It's probably the beaver, the marsh that's next to the DEEP property
Yeah, it came down from
is
there.
where the beavers were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they probably just said,
Very
"Move
likely.
a little
We'll
further
build a
down."
bigger dam.
If the
Yeah.
population is growing, this could be a subsequent generation moving a field and then establishing a new pond.
I was just thinking of the irony of the former wetlands agent complaining about wetlands.
Look, there's new wetlands. The new wetlands are not where the old wetlands were, and if we get rid of the dam fast enough, they're really intermittent. So,
There's some books out now about understanding the role of beaver in ecosystems. We could get Jennifer one of those.
let's do it for a birthday.
Yeah,
No.
I have a copy of Collier's Three Against the Wilderness.
I was just reading something about eager beavers and history of beavers.
They are a very interesting keystone species.
Yeah.
Yep.
Certainly.
Well, they may eventually, way back when I was in college, the pond that's down by Pink Ravine had beavers in it.
Yep.
Because I took forestry and the big yellow Yukon area was actually where the forestry class did all their stuff, so we were
Yeah.
there all the time. So maybe this beaver is eventually just gonna go back down to the pond,
That would be nice.
because
happen.
that's where
Or
there were beavers down
or
there
it
a long
moved
time
up
ago.
from the pond because it got overcrowded.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Beaver
be surprised,
gentrification,
because
One thing on your timeline for
Mhm.
adoption. You need to block in, we've discussed stakeholder engagement,
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Butters or state.
abutters.
Butters, yeah.
That was in his plan.
But it needs to be in his timeline,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
getting it to the.
The timeline
council.
is that it will get done when it gets done, and I am
Right.
I must embrace that. I must learn to be
So
calm.
fun.
And not an eager beaver, if we will. So, okay.
Okay. Okay, management plans. What else were you up to?
Meeting schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meeting schedule for 2026. Hypothetically, we should need fewer special meetings because we don't have another POCD.
10 years.
And so we shouldn't need as many of these. That doesn't mean that we can't continue to walk and meet and inspect properties as site walks. But I think between not attempting to update 7 management plans in the same year that we're covering the POCD means that this will be quite a bit faster. I will anticipate that business that will be coming in 2026 will probably be related, we'll have at least something related to design for a dog park. So this past 2 weeks ago, we did put out an RFP, which we had showed you the draft of, that feedback was integrated, that you gave, and then we put out the RFP for a couple of consultants just for design at a couple different potential locations. The specific ones right now were either River Park or down at Lyons. Making use of the land that's currently just kind of excess, filled with the various spoils from the elementary school construction, removing that, reclaiming that extra field, and then creating some space down there. Those were the 2 primary sites that were recommended in first passes. And then there's some ADA stuff for Southeast, and then some redesigns of the recreation area at Sunny Acres. That also went to RFP. So we have some parks projects coming, some in recreation areas, some in our natural resource preserve areas. And then potentially the other thing, because we are moving towards finishing the council approved acquisition of the Hertzler property. A potential consideration in 2026 on trail expansion. We know that the natural trail through Simpson Wood Preserve curves pretty close to that border already, which is one of the reasons why we thought it made sense to acquire. So if we want to do an additional trail blazing out there and to reroute that trail, make use of the natural topography, that I think will be a useful topic for discussion.
Yeah, some of us are sure how to do it.
Yeah, we just gotta get out in the field and figure out what makes sense for folks.
And that also allow us to eliminate one of the steep pitches up the escarpment.
Yeah.
Which is good, more gradual inclines are good.
Mm.
Final thing that we anticipate for 2026 is a project related to the recreational trails grant. So most years, the state of Connecticut makes money available for improvements to trails. And the town is looking to put in an application for the recreational trails grant. Superficially, we are still honing in on a concept. But we are thinking potentially a connection between Max Felix Drive and White Oak through Dunham Town Forest, a substantial improvement and stabilization of that trail. To show, we're early on and we're still working out ideas, but the concept being a stabilized stone dust. You do some topo work on switchbacks, particularly up the incredibly steep hill that
Yeah.
right now forms the primary obstacle of north-south access. For those who are less familiar, Dunham Town Forest, the deep
That's
air.
a septic place.
Yep, so this is the parking area, you go up the hill, this is the septic and leach field for the White Oak Apartments. The trail, some brown here, goes through and up to the east, goes towards the Cedar Swamp. You continue along and has some access out to some existing houses on Fieldstone. But as you cross the stream here, it
It's
gets
really
really
steep,
steep up here.
Yeah.
I have never been reminded so much that I really need to take a regular morning cardio as when I was attempting to go up that hill or Coney Rock Hill.
Yeah, that's very,
But there's once you're up that hill, there's really two ways to get out to Maple Road. You could either go along the conservation easement and out the access
road, yeah.
of the pipeline. Though it should be noted, if we turn this off, there's a very large wetland system
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
runs
yeah.
all through here, which limits your ability to move with topography.
And a couple of moderately steep grades down to that wetland.
Well, the old road that goes along next to the pipeline there is
Right.
reasonably
So
flat.
the alternative is to continue along this road, cut back along the pipeline onto Max Felix, and then potentially extend up to Maple to
Yeah.
tie into the sidewalk that is slated to go along this section of road.
Yeah. That little section, unfortunately, the road stays on the conservation easement that's not on town land, about where that kink starts.
Right, so the old road is a straight line through here. I actually pulled up the record hub to show this, and it logged me out, which is really convenient for making a point.
It's not the friendliest.
It certainly does allow, that's not my password.
Part of the fun, trying to get in. Whose hub is this? It's a
How do I spell that?
land record. Dutch for everywhere.
No,
Or you can
well,
get it- Well, for anywhere, but you can get the Mansfield.
the only permission I have was Mansfield. I think you can get it from other town clerks.
Yes, the record hub is one of those things that is really, really useful in theory. And in practice can be useful, but not if you want to do anything other than a narrow range of things about it.
I find the best use of it is to know where to look in the town clerk's vault.
Yeah,
You know, you can figure out a map number.
Oh, you printed this, right?
so the
No.
Algonquin,
Yeah,
That
well,
one's good,
actually,
right there.
I had the town clerk print that.
so the Algonquin, yeah, here.
But I used this to find it.
Yeah.
So the Algonquin gas transmission line runs through here. The road basically goes out in a straight line. And so that old road shoots straight out following this pathway. And so if you look at this, it's basically a continuation that, as opposed to following the jog of the open space dedication, goes onto the conservation easement.
Yeah.
And so
Now that lot,
Or lot.
that lot is still owned by Depot Associates.
And somebody actually cleared a way into it through the knotweed
Yeah,
to possibly make it envisionable by a buyer.
but there's also a hunting
see
stand
the
that,
swath.
there's also a hunting tree stand.
But it would be possible to, with a little grading, follow the owned land
Yes.
next to, the Cotulas.
Yes, so this parcel here, there is a restriction on there's an existing stone wall that curves through here, but there's enough space at least for a walking path to follow in through here without needing to cut through that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once the sidewalk is in, this ties in very nicely.
So
The
actually figuring that the town will have an excavator in that area.
precisely.
You know,
The concept here is that right now, if we can, it would be great to be able, as we are expanding pedestrian access down Maple Road all the way to the middle school, we are getting closer to getting several cluster subdivisions to be able to walk. There really isn't any good walking path along the shoulder here to go on the road to get to the elementary school, to get to the middle school rather, and then to tie into the walking paths. But by going through Dunham Town Forest, where we already have a cleared path, we were able to stabilize it, make the grades good, then folks could walk. Now, the question then becomes, if the substantial effort was to be put into stabilization of that pathway, would that become appropriate for bicycles? That is a potential question for exploration, that could be included as a design parameter because the grant for this would be design, right? The grant ask is, can we figure out how to do this? If the town were to direct the whatever contractor is ultimately selected to consider such improvements, that would certainly be factored into the cost of anything they come out with. And that could increase costs as you need more engineering to stabilize on that, as opposed to just footpaths. Similar could be said for accommodating equestrian paths, though I don't think there's as many places with horses in this area as in the south of town to accommodate for them.
Could you
Okay.
zoom in on Max Felix?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the end of Max Felix.
One thing we noticed is,
Scroll up just a little bit. Yeah,
Like this?
yeah. The, where are we looking? Oh, scroll up a little more.
Like this?
No,
no, up.
Other way?
Just
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, is this, look down at the bottom of that parcel.
Yeah.
Is that just a registration issue on the air photo?
Possibly.
Mm.
I think it is something that will necessarily have to be explored as a consequence of this project.
Yeah,
But I never like to take anything as gospel when just looking at the GIS.
yes.
All of the layers are roughly where they are. In all my time, there's been lots of times where, for example, the Conservation Commission has gone out, has been inspecting easements and gone, we think that there's something that is within the easement. That's happened several times. There's only been one time as I've investigated that actually has been, and I've had to had someone move a structure. And so I think in general, it's not that, but we do have to check. If we look at, because we have the survey open here. You know what, I'm gonna do this some other time as opposed to
Yeah.
making the sausage on camera.
Okay.
Quickly.
So scroll over to the intersection of Clover Mill and Spring Hill,
That's this one.
basically by the middle school.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now one thought I've been having is the sidewalk is gonna come down the side by the middle school all the way to the intersection with Spring Hill.
Yes.
What was the Clover Mill and Spring Hill down that one? Yeah. And I've not explored it, but I've been thinking, and we're several years out of trail from where the pointer is into the trail net at Schoolhouse Brook.
Doing a footbridge over the little.
Yeah, well, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how wet that section is. You know, et cetera, you know.
Outlined in blue mean wet.
Outlined in blue means hypothetically there's a water polygon,
Oh.
but it's all hypothetical. The
Yeah.
only thing I really consider is I look at this and I see there's some sort of wetland in here, but how wet it is,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Never been into that area. I know on the other side of the road into the middle school, there's actually, you can actually see it, there's,
Yeah.
there's almost,
That
it,
little pond.
there's a temporary pond
Yeah.
there, so that area is.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
definitely-
but
And the corner of the hatched area is pretty wet.
yeah,
So
It's a beautiful place for red-winged blackbirds.
Yeah.
Not much else.
Well, actually, that field would be, I think would be a cool thing eventually to just put a loop trail in that the middle school could use.
mhm.
Because it's a almost like Merrill Meadow in the variety of vegetation that's in there.
yeah,
And the other thing that's really neat, if you've ever been up, there's that little curved road that goes up to the upper soccer fields.
Right here.
And if you go, if you hang a left there and go over to the field, there's the old kind of stone wall where they build a wall and a wall and then they throw all the junk rock.
Yeah.
It's gotta be like 8 feet wide.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a really, it's a
Right.
really neat
See,
stone
and-
wall
and
there.
Technically, that property is Spring Hill Fields and not part of the middle school.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, yeah. But I say,
Yeah.
that's why I say, if there was one of our properties that would probably get use if there was an access.
Yeah.
Like a
To it.
stile over the wall.
It would be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, would
Yeah.
build a style over that funky
Yeah.
wall, that
That's
8 foot wide.
wall is pretty interesting.
Yeah, cause I brought some kids up to look at the wall one time and they thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
You know, you could do, depending upon how wet it goes, in different areas, you could do a series of little boardwalks with some educational signage.
It's not wet up there. It's down
Yeah,
in-
most of the field is dry, just the
Down
corner
there.
down where the pond is.
Yeah.
You're just down
Yeah.
in that corner. But there's probably one of the
Changes.
bigger stands of milkweed in that field.
yeah.
There's a big area of milkweed.
Well, originally that field was all multiflora road.
Oh, I know,
Yes,
but it hasn't come back.
yeah,
So they did a really good job of getting rid of it.
yeah, because I remember charging through it to see what was
Oh,
there
yeah.
and discovering a barbed wire fence.
Ouch.
This was a very memorable few moments.
Yeah, yeah, that's a little rough.
I would think your concept of connecting into the schoolhouse, you were talking about going into the Bicentennial Pond or down to the southern part of Schoolhouse Brook?
My answer would be yes, because, you know, it's an area that we've got to look at sometime in the next 2 or 3. I'm guessing it's gonna be 3 years before the sidewalk is in place on Maple Road.
It's a 2-year construction job, and so we're looking to break ground late next year, and so.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah,
And I heard some mumbling about lowering Maple Hill Road. Is a reality to that?
there is some topography on the road to make it less like riding a great serpent as you go through it. There particularly for those who like, you know, grabbing onto Jormungandr, I'm sorry, but the big issue being is sightlines and
Yeah,
safety.
yeah.
Because there's a couple of those fast drops where you, as you can probably tell, attempting to get into this building, we're putting an awful lot of time and effort into trying to get people to slow down around blind curves and sudden drops in the land. So if we're gonna put all of that effort on 275, we feel it makes sense to do some of the same things. We're not gonna see some of those center islands, but the road itself is getting a little narrower in sections. There's a little bit of grading intended to get people to slow down. The actual width of the road gets wider because of the 8-foot walking path, but the road itself is going to be a little bit impinged. So that's
Yeah.
that's the truth to the rumor.
So when are you gonna slow down the traffic on Gurleyville?
We can only slow down so much traffic. You guys have to vote yourself higher taxes to give us more money to slow down more traffic faster.
But it's speed.
Um,
We've already got enough bumps.
just put a bunch of rocks in the road and people will slow down.
We get the people that come over the crest of the hill on my property,
Mhm.
and their wheels become less attached to the road. And over the years, we've had one person go up on the bank, one person roll, and one person go off into the woods.
And there's a stop sign. Instead of saying stopped, it says OPTS, ops. Most people opt to not stop.
Yeah, no, but it's,
So Michael, you were talking about what might be done next year?
So the concept here for the Rec Trails grant is if the concept of exploring improvements to Dunham Town seems reasonable. Rec Director Jay O'Keefe was also thinking that because in many ways this is about improving accessibility for these communities, particularly because White Oak is a naturally occurring, it's some of the low income housing in town. Trying to bundle that with other accessibility improvements for the grant application, improving Merrow, getting some of that resurfacing done faster with some state money, some improvements to Schoolhouse Brook Park, improving the accessibility down to the pond and universal access trail. So redoubling our commitment to those areas that we have already made accessible and connected, and then trying to continue to improve accessibility and connectivity is the idea at this point. Does that seem reasonable to this body?
yeah,
Yeah, we had an interesting group at Schoolhouse for the last of our walking, Walktober walks. And it was really, we had 14
people.
mostly older people.
Older people.
All but a few were Mansfield residents, and none of them had been on that trail before.
Yeah.
And they did not even know that there was any such thing as an accessible trail around Bicentennial. But there are a couple places that
Still
need work.
yeah, there's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of design flaws on that.
So some of that is outreach.
Yeah, but I say that it was just really neat because they kept going, wow, I didn't know this was here. Wow, I didn't know this was here. It was like, you live in the town, you know, if you wanted to go and look and see what is here, it's all available.
So
And
the
then
Walktober did serve its purpose.
Oh, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
we had some really nice times on.
Yeah,
Speaking of the final thing, because talking about around bicentennial, the final thing that I have to say about what I expect for next year to be on the calendar is the concept of putting in a bioreactor. So a bioreactor is a denitrification tool. You use them in places where you have a water body that has too much nitrogen, and basically what you do is you find a way to route a lot of the water in your water body through an area with a large amount of carbon biomatter, in this case, generally wood chips, because they're easy to get your hands on. And the bacteria that will grow on it will fix nitrogen over time, and that allows you to reduce the amount of nitrogen in your water body. Bicentennial Pond, we have a nitrogen problem that was well documented. The pond is filling in, as ponds do, but we humans have a vested interest in this pond that we dug not filling in.
Same.
So slowing down the amount of nitrogen, reducing nitrogen reduces plant growth, which reduces the rate at which things fill in, makes it easier for us to dredge. I've been working with James Knighton, who is a UConn professor in NRE.
Environmental or
Yeah,
natural
Natural
resources.
Resources, who's a member of the Conservation Commission. And we are attempting to put together an application for either through the state's 319 program or a different. We're looking at a couple different things to install a bioreactor just upstream of Bicentennial Pond. We're still looking at what this will look like. But in particular, the water course that feeds into Bicentennial Pond has this nice feature right here, which makes it very, very easy to do this, because what you can do is you can route the water through one side while you install the bioreactor, then you install the bioreactor low enough with a little bit of excavation that the water will naturally route through it, but there's still an overflow channel in the case of heavy rains. So it's kind of an ideal place for it. Because this will be an improvement to the park and will involve some temporary access off of this trail and potentially some disturbance into that area, we will of course want to show you when we have an idea and design. But that is a concept we are exploring for improving the long-term health of the watercourse in the park.
okay. How far up does the parkland go on that? Which parcels are which?
All the way up to
To
this
the
cut.
pipeline,
Yeah,
yeah,
and a little bit onto it.
yeah,
The
okay, that's what I
actual
thought,
trail
yeah,
routes across the Ward property.
yeah. Well, that's the Nipmunk,
Yep,
so.
by
yeah.
the field and then hits
Yeah.
Spring Hill. See the various property
Yeah,
borders.
because I've often thought it would be a wise idea to put a couple of silt retentions areas, at least on the upper end of Bicentennial Pond.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's become very shallow up here.
Yeah.
We did, as you probably noted at some point this year, the extensive work that we did on Spring Hill, with both repaving and the installation of some new catch basins, a couple of plunge pools that we've left in place along the edges to reduce water velocity as it comes down. We think those will help reduce the amount of
Yeah.
runoff into the watercourse, which would help slow the issue. But we think that having something to just pull nitrogen out of the water as it comes in is going to be very important.
yeah. Because
So
that's been one of the problems.
those are what staff is anticipating as being big items that are coming for next year.
You see any subdivisions coming?
No, I really don't. I'm not going to say that subdivisions as a concept are dead, but the economics behind building houses right now means that you're either trying to buy existing lots that have been split and put $1 million house on it, or you're trying to buy one large parcel of land and put a multifamily complex on it, or some sort of series of condos that stay in common ownership. This has all sorts of problems that we don't need to go into right now. But I mean, the only subdivision being built in town is Willis Farms, which is an offshoot of what's it called? Lewis Farms is currently being built. It is over here. It is an offshoot of Beacon Hill.
Yeah,
And there hasn't, and that was approved several years ago. It's just finally being built now. And they're 3/4 to 1.25 million houses. And they're beautiful, but it's being developed on an old plan. This isn't to say that you won't see an occasional lot split, but I don't see subdivisions as being particularly likely rolling forward. I think what you'll see is you'll see more accessory dwelling units as people try to build like carriage houses, more in-law suites on their houses, to increase density. You'll see redevelopments of properties as they kind of, some clusters like Carlton Road over here, as these kind of come to the end of their useful life as units, you'll see redevelopments of these, but I wouldn't expect to see them split. The economic drivers that have power to do that are private equity firms, and they're not going to split their assets.
Okay.
Yep.
Next year.
Yes.
Yeah. okay, so,
Would we please
okay,
pursue what we started a year ago?
Permanent preservation.
Permanent
Yeah,
preservation.
okay,
We started this a year ago. We asked the Agriculture Committee to join us. They did so at their January meeting earlier this year. And nothing has happened.
yeah, we've gotten distracted by
By,
POCD.
let's see, we had the plan, no, first it was the budget. We couldn't do anything because of the budget.
Yeah.
Then we couldn't do anything because of the master plan. Then we couldn't do anything because of POCD.
Yeah.
And here we are a year later.
Yeah.
So what's the plan?
Staff did have a meeting, so we spent a decent amount of time waiting for legal to provide us with an opinion concerning the interaction of the laws and confirming that what language we should use if we were going to permanently preserve land such we could write an AIS and give council an informed opinion properly. Staff had a discussion earlier in November with the town manager concerning permanent preservation of land, which I believe the manager is intending to have a discussion with the mayor and deputy mayor on this coming Wednesday, to begin sourcing the discussion of when it goes on a council agenda, what does just how to begin shaping discussion in a productive way. So yes, staff acknowledges your frustration that this went on pause for essentially 10 months. The train is slowly moving now. The wheels are screeching angrily as we come up from the inertia of total legal rest. But particularly for those properties which are of important value, I think that the major discussion point is going to be the major point that I have heard and entertained about the town doing this, of permanently preserving certain parcels, is what is permanent, how forever is permanent, and how forever is permanent, and if permanent is forever, then is that a prudent thing for a government to do to itself? And does that mean we can no longer respond effectively to constituent demands when all of us are dead and gone? And if it doesn't mean forever, then how are we doing something that is better than simply continuing conscious policies and continue the process of referring things to our committees and having discussions? You know, that was the sentiment that I believe has come from those who don't understand necessarily, or don't understand is the wrong word, from those who don't necessarily see benefit in the town permanently preserving some parcel, because or how are our values really going to change so much that someone is going to come in? Are we expecting the federal government to come in and rip these lands away from the town and chop down all the trees to put something on them? Are we expecting the town's values to change so much that these resources will be lost by people who are short-sighted and just want to develop for money, housing, and then if the town's values change that much, is that not the prerogative of a democratic society to allow that to happen? So there was like a discussion of like multi-generational heritage and like what you leave for people who come after you, and being responsible to the resources you have versus being responsible to future problems that may arise. It was an interesting discussion. I think that some of the people in this room would be better equipped to have that discussion than I was necessarily. But that is, I think, the counter argument that I am hearing to permanent preservation at this time, which isn't to say that I don't think it's going to be heard and that certain properties won't be permanently protected, but that is the initial.
I think the sentiment might be that some properties could be permanently protected.
I definitely think that there is probably a sentiment that some properties could be permanently protected, particularly if they're already in a complex of properties that are partially permanently protected. And it just makes more sense to not make it so that, well, let's just peel away this one, or let's just, it might make more sense from a management standpoint to let's just try to get them all onto even footing and try to put them all under the exact same protection regime, because that makes management less of a headache for everyone and ensures that all the parcels get equal treatment.
Schoolhouse, not schoolhouse, Shelter Falls.
Shelter Fall,
Very good.
Sawmill Brook, right? If you got some pieces that you acquired as part of an open space subdivision, some places that you just picked up with money, some that you got federal grants for, state grants for, that creates a confusing, that's not how you make the S sound, a confusing regime for management. But so I don't think there was not a hard no said at any point in any of the discussion. It was more of a philosophical, like, how permanent is permanent, and what does permanent mean, and what does it mean to be a responsible government to people now and people in the future. And so I thought it was an interesting discussion. But I think
I do think we should note, as we do our management plans, the places that aren't, the parcels that aren't permanently protected.
Yeah, and that was,
You have a table for that, right?
that was a whole
Yeah,
concept
yeah.
of doing the management plans,
Yeah,
was bringing that issue of permanent protection before the town council as part of the management plan.
yeah,
Yeah, the original idea was we were going to do a management plan for the common fields. Because to me, that is one of the most vulnerable pieces,
Yeah.
number one. And number two, it is our history.
yeah,
You know, it's not just farmland. It's
yeah,
like,
we should, yeah,
so, you know, it just, and that's why I'm saying there. If they don't want to do everything, that's what they don't want to do, fine. But to me, there are some pieces that there's just no discussion even.
Yeah.
You know, there can be no higher use than
Yeah.
protect that particular.
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
And it's good farmland.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so, you know, I'm not quite sure where this is going, frankly.
I don't know where it's going either,
None of it
necessarily. But I think that I will find out what the results of the discussion are between the manager and the mayor and deputy mayor, and then we will begin having the discussion. The fact of the matter is, we got really stuck because of first other plans and then legal. Once an item gets to that point and it starts to rise to the radar of the council, then things start to happen with it and it begins to bubble, and perhaps early next year, I know budget season, but early next year, if this body were to make a presentation to council, which I believe it's been 2 or more years, I don't know if we
We've had
have,
almost complete council turnover since the last time we did one.
I think it would be a good way to open the topic in a productive way of so we are your advisory body, this is what we think about, and this is what we do for you. And this is some of the stuff that's really on our mind that we're recommending right now. These management plan updates bundled with these updates, preserving some of these lands that aren't preserved and others, here's why we think it would make sense. And I think that there's a narrative line to weave through there that would be productive in terms of opening the discussion and getting opinions and getting some land preserved. So,
After budget season.
or we can try to cram it in the next 2 months.
We tried earlier this year and it didn't work.
I think
Yeah,
aiming for after budget season is always slightly easier, particularly if we want to go with the management plans in hand and say, hello, this is our presentation. We would like you to update these 7 management plans. We want you to think about, permanently preserving
yeah,
a bunch of parcels. I think it makes sense to do that after the budget is done. Because everybody in town hall starts getting stressed on March 1st. And the stress doesn't go away until the referendum passes.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept of bundling into the management plans, because that gives us the chance to really talk to council. Yeah,
My guess is we would have to go back to the ag committee again.
yeah,
I mean, they have a letter as of January of this
Yeah.
year. I don't think we want to go to the council with their support of a year ago.
That's fair. Fortunately, your staff is staff for the ag committee, and so the ag committee has had basically no turnover since we had that discussion. So
yeah,
staff can confirm with the ag committee that
I mean, those were the first parcels we were asking
Yes.
the council to consider.
yeah.
yes.
And the ag committee thought that those were good parcels or?
The ag committee was in support of permanently protecting ag
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Acknowledging the town's agricultural heritage, as well as noting that it's once land leaves agriculture, it almost never goes back
Back
into
on, yeah.
agriculture. The conversion is almost always one way. And so
Yeah.
if the town supports, if the values of the town are being an agricultural town, then the town should make an effort to make sure that the town can continue being an agricultural town.
Yeah, most people in town eat.
I've
Yeah.
heard that it is a common experience among people.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
keep us posted.
Yeah.
I will.
Okay,
I have a question. Is
Mhm.
the rec master plan finalized to the point that one can download it from somewhere?
Yes, the rec master plan is online. The rec master plan was finalized to the point that one can download. I will find that link.
Okay.
It's on one of the sites. Find rec master
I'm
plan.
not
It
very good
might,
at finding things.
everything, I made like 9 versions of that plan. It wasn't my plan, but it became my plan. And I don't know which final one eventually went up online, but I think it's probably on the Mansfield Tomorrow website where we've been bundling all of our recent master plans, but yes. Now, importantly, the plan was not adopted. The plan was received and council directed staff to pursue a series of objectives outlined in the plan and then enumerated a bunch of bullet points, which is like adopting a plan, but allows us to disagree with certain parts of the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we used to approve plans with conditions.
Yes, One can think of this as that, or conversely, rejecting a plan, but not all of it.
That's what happened.
It,
They didn't approve the plan,
Right.
but they did approve the recommendations. in the-
a bunch of them, but not all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think many of this body's criticisms of the plan, certainly were heard, in the recommendations of the plan. Unrelated to this body's, recommendations about the plan, but pertinent to the plan, Silver Sneakers and the other age, insurance supported community center memberships are being retained, after some, what I understand, fierce negotiations. Some of the prices have gotten better with the insurance agencies, and council has acknowledged the need to continue supporting these programs even at a loss because they are important. So the money has gotten better and the commitment from council has gotten firmer, and those programs are continuing to be supported indefinitely. So that is, I know there was a lot of discussion about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because we're in both of them, we get all the letters, and I was surprised that they didn't come to some sort of conclusion more quickly, because when they said what, more than half of the members of the community center are either Silver Sneakers or what's the other one, Renew or,
yeah, Renew Active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they said more than half of the members, like they're gonna just suddenly get rid of half of the members of the community
They're gonna
center.
assume that they pick up the full freight.
Well, that was kind of a,
Nobody's gonna pick up the full price.
yeah, I mean, that
No, but
that would
the,
have
yeah,
been a big jump for everybody, but I was like, whoa, that's,
yeah,
I figured that the number was fairly high, but when they said it was more than half, it's like, whoa, that's a little rough.
I think
Yeah.
it is interesting in terms of, to wax poetic for just a second. I think it is interesting to consider when you read a plan or you're working on a plan, the baseline assumptions and guiding principles that go into a plan that shape everything else. They can be as benign as what we attempted to do with the POCD, which was, this is too long, we need to make it shorter, no one is reading it. And then we discovered we can't do it. Like we had to abandon that as one of the goals we went in with because we were losing too much of substance. But I think, thinking about that concept and applying it to the Parks and Rec master plan, one of the probably the foremost principle is economic sustainability, where economic sustainability was assumed to mean that no more burden ends up on the taxpayer, no more burden comes out of general cost. Everything else has to be privatized in some way, and that kind of existed as a background element in the plan, guiding and directing all principles, even if it was never said, we are assuming that no more tax revenue will ever be raised to support this. And so I think it's just an interesting note of, as we write management plans and review plans of conservation and development and park and rec master plans, trying to think about, like, I think we as plan writers should be explicit in what are the primary guiding principles behind what are these plans we're writing trying to do, because otherwise we spend, I think, a very large amount of time with folks disagreeing with the plan and not necessarily understanding why, because they haven't gotten down to the brass tacks on why don't I like this? Why are we speaking different languages? And it's, well, the underlying assumptions are different and you just haven't like dissected it yet. So
And the current underlying assumptions are that big business has rights for everything.
staff will not opine on capitalism in this meeting.
no,
All right.
no, okay,
Do we need a motion?
yeah, but we have a, we
Yes.
have on the screen,
adopting this schedule as the 6 regular meetings for 2026. Unless we feel the need that we want to add additional regular meetings, these will be our regular meetings, and then if there is a need for other discussion, special meetings can be scheduled in off months.
Yeah, it's very
Or
easy
as
to
needed.
schedule a special
yeah.
meeting. so-
Yes, it's not
Yeah.
hard.
Okay, so motion to,
So move.
so move, a
Second.
second. And, okay, Juliana seconds.
I already heard Vicky second.
Oh.
I was the closest.
Okay. Anybody opposed to adopting the?
Nope.
Continuing the meet as we do
Okay.
it?
Excellent.
Okay, okay, so you'll share that with the town clerk?
Yes, that will get shared with the clerk.
Do we need to talk about the maps?
Well, that's my question. You did chapter 4 and the maps.
Yes.
I don't know that everyone has had a chance to look at them. I haven't looked at the
No.
maps. Is it something we can talk about in our January meeting, or will the whole PLCD thing be over by then?
Won't be over, we'll be nearing the. We'll be nearing the end, but it won't be done, so if there are. Comments and corrections, we will be able to fix that. If there is, what I would say is, if you look at the maps and say like, on a fundamental level, I think this map is wrong and needs to be redrawn because it's displaying something wrong. Tell me now, tell me the moment you have that impulse. Actually, tell me the second moment after the impulse. Use the first moment to check to see if it's rational, and then if it sticks with you, tell me, because I need to nail that down November, December. But the maps, just to briefly go over them, the draft maps are topography, showing the town's highest and lowest elevations.
That map was a little weird. I couldn't figure it out.
Hydrology,
See the purple outline line?
yes, I do see the purple outline
And I have
lines.
trouble with down in the south end.
This,
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is that outlined?
Uh-huh.
From the other one?
I've been trying to figure that out. That was in the 2015 plan.
That makes no sense.
I agree. I agree very, very much. The lines on that don't make sense, and I've been trying to figure out why it was in the 2015 plan like this. Because this line should not be here, or this line should be somewhere else, and this should
Okay,
not be
okay.
dotted.
Yeah, I was trying to look at the legend to see what,
So yeah, so this is the public drinking water supply area for the Willimantic Reservoir,
It's essentially the watershed upstream from
right?
the reservoir.
And so it makes perfect sense. My one thought is that,
but Mansfield, the Mansfield Hollow, flood control also flows,
right, so the part of this is, that is the funkiness of our border with Willimantic, and the fact that this is kind of mapping across town boundaries, but we don't get to capture that. My only thought is that what this was meant to capture is the fact that Echo Lake is, as a kettle hole lake, hydraulic disconnect, but I don't know that that's, one, accurate, or two, over this area. I don't think that's right. The way this is feeding in, I think some of these do feed into this. And if that's true, this should not be dotted. So I can't find the original metadata for this original map to figure out why it was this way. And I'm trying to figure out what it was trying to mean.
Switch to the topography one and let's, I was trying to mentally overlay that.
Right, because this area is confusing, but
Yeah,
I don't.
Why don't you, I would suggest you go to the state mapping. The deep maps, GAA surface water,
Mhm.
and this watershed should correspond to that.
I will check that, and then I can get
Yeah.
my map maker to fix this. Because yes, I made this same observation when I first looked at these maps, and they're like, I don't know, it's in the 2015 plan. I'm like, that really doesn't justify this. But I don't know what's going on. Map 3, forest land maps. This is taken from our forest layers.
A
I
petty
thought the
comment.
key,
Go
the
ahead.
key wasn't really intuitive on that.
Yeah,
Oh,
In
no, this is what, 2-3?
this 3, 2, 3.
Yeah.
2-3. Yeah, it. You got public open space
Yep.
and some of it is including ag land, which isn't necessarily public access.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is including JT land, but you don't note that as being, it's just a confusion in terminology.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And you don't have the little divide, Lee Dunbar's piece.
Yeah.
No, so that was
That's recent too.
because it's very recent. When we were doing these maps were end of September, and that hadn't been recorded. Now I do need to go add that in. 2, 3.
Is this map better produced by working with the assessor's data?
As opposed to the state data?
And does Clear have, I think it's Clear, have revised layers?
So
I've lost track of what all they're putting up on their website.
this was the clear 2015 forest fragmentation layer. I
Yeah.
don't believe there was a 2025 one. We asked them to look for it, but I will check again. One of the awkward things that has been happening is that we seem to be on the same 10-year cycle for plan updates as a bunch of DEP plans, which means that they're not done. And so now we're kind of doing a standoff of who's going to get done first and who can pull down whose data.
Mhm.
Dam mapping.
Isn't there a dam on the Moss Sanctuary?
Yes, so this is one change that we have noted is that we're supposed to be a dam, Moss Sanctuary. I sat down with the map maker to go over the fact that there's a dam missing at Moss Sanctuary. There's a dam missing at Baxter Road Field. We were previously not noting the dam on the Natchog River. We don't actually note this one because technically the dam is in Wyndham, but it's not useful to not note it. So those 3 were noted.
I found that, on this one, I found that the hazard, classification
Mhm.
isn't intuitive.
Yeah,
Low, negligible, significant, then moderate, between significant and high.
Oh, no, yep, that should be a progression, and it's supposed to
and
get,
And it should also be a progression in colors.
yes.
yeah. The other thing is, I assume in the text someplace is an explanation of what hazard actually means.
Yes.
Does that have a legal meaning?
Hazard is essentially catastrophe level of things go wrong, not likelihood of things going badly.
Okay.
Um,
How much is it gonna cost if it blows?
Well, the scenario that was explained to me when I started working for an insurance company is you're driving along, you see some kids walking along a 2x3 on a nice soft lawn. Is that dangerous? The likelihood of them falling off, the risk is quite high, but the hazard of them falling off is quite low. They land on soft grass. You see the same kids later on walking along a beam in a barn that's under construction 40 feet in the air. It's wider, so there's less risk of them falling off, but the hazard is much greater.
It's how much property loss is there gonna, or loss of life is it gonna be caused
Yeah.
if the dam fails?
Yeah, basically, that's a classification. How much attention should we be bothered paying to this dam?
With the
Um,
underlying assumption you didn't want those kids to die.
Yep.
Yeah, but you know,
Let's make that underlying assumption as a town. Let's choose in the public interests to make that underlying assumption.
yeah,
I can't see when I looked at this,
Yes.
any area that is 500.
That's because the 500 area layer is a couple of things. One, right now, the link in our directory is broken. It goes to a source that I can't find. Yes, it goes to a source that I can't find, and it goes to a source that we can't find online. I've been digging for where we got the 500-foot contours for the 2015 plan. The only thing that's noted is Town of Mansfield flood hazard zone, which means that it should have was we were copying FEMA, but we can't find 500-year flood maps anywhere for FEMA. So I don't know where they came from, and also no one plans with them. So I'm recommending we take out the 500-year flood plan. This is not to say anything bad about the people who did the 2015 plan. I just don't know where the data came from. So yes, you're absolutely right, Ken. You can't see it because it's not on there. We're striking this. Map 3.1, farmland mapping, showing various soil classifications and then what is actively used as farm. And ag easements. One comment that we did get was land used for agriculture. Well, like people garden in their backyard, right? Like what's the line for use of agriculture, right? What is homesteading and having a bunch of chickens on your land, agriculture, right? So I have not thought of better words for this than land used for agriculture, but I am open
yeah.
to coming up with a better
Well,
term
how did
for
they
this.
determine it?
So I believe that this is a map of like farm fields.
Yeah, I think it's fields.
This is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
field map.
the traditional agriculture is you make income from,
Yeah,
and,
because
and so that includes these people that have half a dozen chickens and once in a while set a carton of eggs out by the road with a $3 sign on it.
well,
Yeah,
this certainly appears to be
$1,000
Yeah,
a year.
like property.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it's the part that's the horse field.
Yeah,
yeah,
So perhaps
hayfield,
calling it
so-
agricultural field,
yeah.
agricultural.
well, are the soils such that it's a potential agricultural
Well,
field?
It's
It's
mapped
soil
as,
classification.
as local importance, but is it used for agriculture? Yeah.
But it's a soil classification
Yeah.
as a header.
But it's picked up as used for agriculture.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so
It seems to me we need
Because
to
it's
talk about,
crosshatched.
this
which I
is
couldn't
like looking at land.
mhm.
It's not even talking about the use. This is looking at land. If it is cleared land, then that's what's on this map
Yes.
for whatever reason, you know. So I'm thinking instead of just saying it's used for agriculture, I would say like open field. I mean, that's really what this is. Yes? No?
Cleared fields.
Yeah,
Cleared
I
fields?
suspect it was mapped by some sort of a satellite mapping.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, you need to say what it is. It's-
Again.
It's field.
Yeah.
And again, the key there,
Mhm.
you've got prime, local importance, and statewide importance.
It would be better to swap those to go from top to bottom or
Yeah.
bottom to top. Yeah. I agree.
So
We're going 3-1-2. 3-1-2 is the absolute right. It's like the way Americans do dates. It's the wrong way to do dates. I will
If you
stand
work-
by that,
If you
Tom.
work for an
I will stand by
international.
that.
No, I absolutely agree with.
Yeah. If you work for an international company, you learn to use 3-letter abbreviations for
Yeah.
months.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
That's not the
I do
best
that.
one either. but-
I like year, month, day. Preserves parks, active recreation areas. So we break it down as Mansfield, JT, federal, state, and use diversities managed resource areas.
I have one suggestion on this.
Yes,
Active recreation areas should probably be called out and identified as such in addition to the schools. Because we're trying to make a real distinction between active recreation areas that are Jay's domain
Yeah,
and everything else, which is our domain.
yeah.
in a way, it's all Jay's domain, but yes,
Yeah.
You're right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's also
Yeah.
what we talked about when we talked about the rec plan was to, it was.
It will help make that distinction between
Mm,
uh. Things that have capital invested for park recreation and things that just have a trail
Right.
built.
Yeah.
anyway, I'm thinking about,
The-
yeah,
The other
Yeah,
thing is plotting those on the map gives us a good feel of, are there holes that are needed,
right,
you know?
in our,
And you could just add a second shape, like a square with numbers in it.
I was thinking that, or like using a different color of the name around that, and we just need to key it.
So
and we can
coloring
make-
the names, but I like this doing a different shape. Or a different
Yeah.
symbol from, because colors, unfortunately, if you're looking at a black and white copy.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But
And then you have to, or you have to choose colors that
the reason I think
everybody
this
can
is-
recognize.
The reason I think this is important is we've got Mount Hope Park. So the word park
Doesn't convey,
doesn't convey active recreation.
right,
Yeah,
3-2, that's a good point.
And but with that, you can probably distinguish bicentennial pond
Within schoolhouse.
within
Park.
schoolhouse.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a weird.
There's a,
Um,
there's a little bit of an issue with the Yukon land. It's not a preserve, it's not a park, it's managed as forest.
right,
And so it has public access, but it is also, there's absolutely no protection of it. They could put a
Right.
dormitory it on.
yeah.
that's why we refer to it as managed resource areas, right? They are,
But I don't know, there's some, a little bit misleading about the whole title. I don't understand what the point of the map is. It's places you can go currently. Is it kind of that? way?
yeah, this is the places you can go currently map, as opposed to this is the preservation status map.
But you can't, yeah, okay.
Right, so like this is the places with public access and where you can go for stuff.
Maybe you should just call it that, places with public access, title it that. And
Public,
then describe it, you know.
Yeah,
as-
public access being the first in the title. And the other one there on that preserved one, should we drop from that map the areas that Yukon does not preserve?
so these are the ones with public
Yeah,
access, but
but-
if we consider the next map, right, there
Yeah.
are other Yukon managed areas which do not have public access, which includes the area around the Fenton River wells or the Student Valley Farm, the wells along the river here.
And that yellow stuff again is not protected.
Right, the only stuff that's protected is the heat,
It's public.
right, permanently protected open
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So it is a public open space, but not protected.
Right, and that title is totally misleading because you think it's, oh, public and protected, cool. And you know, you don't read the.
Yeah,
fine
So
print.
you think public open space? So this should be public access preserves, parks and active recreation areas. And then 3-3 should be public open space, publicly owned open space.
Well.
No, it's not owned
because
because JT and JT's a private, so it should be,
Right, so.
Oh,
it's
public
sort of- it's like
accessible.
It's apples and oranges, open
Yeah,
space is what
right.
that
Yeah.
is.
so,
Yeah.
It's definitely open space. It's just not protected.
right.
Well, JT is protected.
Some of it is
Okay,
protected.
sure.
The hash mark stuff is protected. And everything on this map is open space.
Okay.
Right.
I think the trick on this one is just drop the unprotected, just say public open space.
Yeah.
And then how you're gonna differentiate that between the preceding
The
map.
other map.
So this
Yeah,
map,
Public open space.
open spaces,
Right, but
is
the
this map.
previous
The-
map is public.
Right, so this distinction is public access. Preserves parks and active recreation areas, because not everywhere, so our conservation easements are not for public access. I guess, so the thing is that, right, these maps are showing slightly different things. There's a lot of duplicated information. I think
Yeah.
attempting to merge these maps into one map will make them unreadable.
Yeah,
Right, but you should have one focus and the other have the other focus instead of this intertwined thing where you can read it one way and totally get the wrong idea.
So would we like,
So I'd like to see, here's where you can go, and here, if you're interested, is what is protected land.
and you want,
And Yukon land is not protected.
and then the Yukon land that's not protected is not even shown
Not, it's.
on either one?
No, I think
It's
it should
it's
be
in the
shown,
orders where you can go land.
but
map,
I think you need to take protected out of the title.
Agreed. We can take protected out of the title because it is public open space, but not all
JT is
protected.
not public. So this is where
it's gotta be something like public access,
So,
open space.
right, but this isn't all public access. So what we should just call this is open space in Mansfield.
Sure.
And then the first one
right, and then it's telling.
is
It's public
Public
access.
public access preserves parks and recreation
Or
areas.
maybe
And
just
then
public
the-
access land in Mansfield.
But in the second one, there's the ag land that is open to the sky, but it's not open to me. It's not public,
Yes, which is why we will call this open spaces in Mansfield.
but.
We're not going to use the word public. for
Right,
this.
yeah, yeah.
We will remove the space, that because that deals with matters of ownership. Okay.
And run that by somebody else and see if they can get it.
No, that makes sense, but I will do a check with someone else. Archaeological assessment. So there were. This is a map of general locations of noted pre-contact archaeological sites. This came from state of Connecticut sources. They are general areas because we don't want people to go out into the woods and bother or destroy these things.
Or is the SHPO comfortable with how generalized it is?
The SHPO?
State Historic Preservation Office.
Yeah, so this information comes from them. I ran this information by them again. I reached out to their office about this map and checking to see that this is the most recent layer and that they are comfortable with this. So this is a 2025 updated data source from our old one. Our old layer had a kind of a broad series of lightly colored things around the rivers because we know that there was native activity around waterways because that was how you survived as a hunter gatherer,
Yeah,
a low intensity
yeah.
agricultural society.
Like this Simpson Wood is not marked on that state layer.
Right. My understanding of the pre-contact sites is that there were whatever standard the state has set
Yeah.
for what counts. This is what we were using, and rather than saying native people used land around water sources and then just marking every water source on the map, we have just called it out in the text.
Yeah,
And so we are this is the proposal with the most recent state data.
is that map really necessary in the POCD?
Good question.
Because something comes in for development in one of the areas that we know there's a potential,
Yes.
we could get into a discussion about, well, it's not on your map, so it can't be,
Yeah.
you know.
I think the text needs to emphasize that they lived everywhere and
The standards for archaeological preservation in the state of Connecticut are, to the best of my knowledge, handled by the state office. One, and then two, really aren't very strong compared to European countries. The New World doesn't preserve its native heritage very well. But the Office of State Archaeologist would be involved were there any findings on any site. Their requirements for archaeological surveys are not something that is within my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And there's different requirements if federal money is going into it, then you actually are supposed to go out and do little test pits.
Yes, yes. As to whether this map is needed in the POCD, it was in the 2015 POCD. I don't know that we should remove it without a reason to remove it. There's very few maps that we're recommending removing from the POCD, so.
I think you do need to qualify that the map is not inclusive. Your text needs to basically say, this is just what we know about, not what's there.
Right.
And not, this doesn't find the particular to be on the map as well.
I sent the chapter 4. You can read that, the paragraphs that we wrote on that, many of which I updated, and let us know if we feel we captured that. Last two maps. Historic resources. This is a map of historic villages and various properties that are registered with National and State Registry. You can see where Yukon is, but also Mansfield Center. I think this one is pretty straightforward.
I was interested, I actually live in one of those areas and I looked at the National Register and it's not really quite, the National Register has the neighborhood and the information in that particular chapter, it does not match what's in the National Register record. So I got curious about what is the Mansfield Historic Village and do you have paperwork on that? Because that would include my house, but I know I'm not in that historic district.
Yeah, so there are historic villages and there are historic districts, and those are different things. Historic villages are acknowledged settlement locales, and I don't remember exactly how you designate something a historic village, but a historic district is a specific empowerment in the Connecticut state statutes that puts it under local authority of a historic review board that has the power to require you to submit an application to them for a certificate of appropriateness if you want to do external improvements to your house.
Well,
So
then you
can
need to say federal or state, because normally historic district can apply to other
Right.
National Register type stuff.
Right, but no, we are not listing historic districts here. These are only the villages. We're not talking anything up, because the districts are all a subset
But
of the
then
villages.
there's the little National Register property kind of thing.
Yes.
Anyway, is what I was really trying to say, can I go look up this historic village? Is this written down somewhere?
Yes, why it's in the POCD.
There's no detail though.
In the bounds of it, I don't know, because the historic part of this town is, again, not my expertise. I just know the boundaries, and I know they were called out in some study, and I don't remember where. Where is my?
I think
Some
also
of-
the dates in chapter 4, there's an error in the dates.
So this is
In
historic
terms of what's
resources, this is
historic.
historic
Yeah.
villages. And
Section 190-60 of the zoning regulations provides for general design review. In Eagleville, Gurleyville, Hanksville, Mansfield Center. You should have done some homework before you paved that driveway.
See, I'm not in that district because my house is not, even though the text in there says through 1950, that's not how it really is. And my house is 1904 and we're not in it. And I was told that by a historian. I was also curious who reviewed that chapter TD. Do you know who that is? they made a lot of comments that made sense. I think it was TP. Okay, who is that?
Tony Pignatelli, she is the lead consultant
Uh-huh.
on the project.
But I think there's also this guy in town, Bruce Clouet, who did a lot of historic stuff.
Yeah,
That is perhaps who originally provided the mapping of the historic villages. Again, this is something Jennifer would know.
yeah,
I don't.
Okay.
And so if
You
they're,
might want to have Bruce, look at this chapter.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Someone from the Nashville Historic.
yeah, yeah, but I
Well,
would
he's
say,
sort of from the historic.
He's the president.
Bruce or
Yeah.
elsewhere,
yeah,
you know, well, he's not the president.
Yeah.
but
No,
But
he's
he's
active-
very
program
active.
chair.
Active member.
program chair.
And he's the one who, for the particular district I'm in, he's the one who submitted the National Register thing.
that's maps.
Okay,
Yeah.
you also sent us chapter 4
I did.
with the view of finding out what happened to the scenic views section of chapter 3 that got shipped over to chapter 4.
And it's not
Lost
there.
in the ocean.
And it is not there. The scenic road designation section has been put in chapter 4, but the rest of it is not there. And consequently, there's nothing about scenic views in chapter 3.
Yes.
So it went
If
away.
you think about scenic views in this town, 95% of them are of either natural or agricultural features, not villages. Consequently, something about scenic views needs to go back in chapter 3.
Scenic view should not be lost in the void.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
can understand.
I will figure out why they were lost in the void.
yeah, yeah,
Right,
we're
I mean,
just
it may
ready.
have been, let's make the plan shorter, and this is one of the items that needs to not be taken away.
I don't remember
Or maybe a
ever
cut and
saying,
paste mistake.
yeah,
too.
I don't remember ever saying cut it. I think I remember saying move it.
Well,
And-
you
Yes.
might want to move
Fill out
Yeah.
your
scenic
clipboard.
roads.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But you don't want to, and you might want to talk about scenic villages in chapter 4. But most of the scenery in this town is not historic. It's not. And that's what people like about this town.
Yeah.
There is farm, there is forest. There is a nice marsh that you see in such and such a road.
I will find this section, find out what went wrong with it, and find my original notes to see if
Yeah.
I am responsible.
Right, now, there was a map that went with this, the scenic view sheds map.
Yes, that was
Which-
supposed to move to wherever scenic views was going to, which I thought was chapter 4. Yes, the scenic view sheds map. If we go to the old PUCD,
Right, and frankly, I'm not a big fan of the scenic view sheds map. It really is too vague. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, they have areas that, you know,
It
rated
was-
1, 2, or 3.
It was the creation of Rudy.
Rudy created it, and I think it's in the plan pretty much as a courtesy to Rudy, because it frankly isn't very useful. But I think the text about scenic views from chapter 3 does need to stay there. I mean, it could be modified, shortened, whatever, but there has to be some comment about it in chapter 3.
we're almost there. Hold on. the plan is
Yeah.
not so-
Watching this-
It's a very slow little blue bar.
It's a big plan.
It's a big plan, as we found, and it's not getting shorter. Let's see.
It's in chapter 3.
That's the last map too. Yes, so here you can see the 500-year flood zones there, and here. I don't know where this data came from. I've spent a lot of time looking for that data.
DEP 2010.
No, there it
Here it is. Scenic resources and classifications.
Can you make, I guess you can't make it bigger without losing it.
Oh.
Can't read it.
yeah,
Not really, no.
it's,
One more. Please hold.
There it is.
yeah.
All right. something variegated clams. I can't read it.
You said class, not variegated clams.
All right.
Yeah.
That's really what it looked like.
That, I've never heard a zebra mussel called a variegated clam, but that's
Oh.
So I mean, basically, this is a topography map.
it is functionally a topography
with
map,
the
yes.
idea of you can either see a hill or you have a view of a valley. You know, I mean, to me, it's like.
Yeah, this whole thing,
why?
this whole thing reminds me, in the '60s, National Park Service came up with this thing contrasting your foreground against your background. And somebody proved if you were standing in a junkyard looking at the Grand Teton was an eyesore according to their formula. Because it sharp contrast with your foreground.
Oh, gosh.
So anyway, so I'm not a fan of this map. I don't care if this stays or goes.
Yeah.
But I do want the text to be there.
We will
Yeah.
find out what happened to the text and recover it. Does anyone feel strongly about this map? Because I do think that this map, other than being a beautiful feature of the contrast of purple and orange, I do find that this map is mostly just a topography map, which we do already have in the plan.
It's a
Yeah.
nice topography.
It is a nice
Yeah.
topography map. You can definitely, I mean, it's,
Tell the uplands and the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of like it as a topography map. The topography map, in fact, was a little hard to look at. Maybe you just want to retitle this one.
we have strong feelings about this map. Keep,
Don't keep.
don't keep.
Yeah, if there's a topography map, it should have better color choices.
I mean,
One
that
thing-
was
You know, the higher you are, they should get, you know.
The one thing it does have that it doesn't have in any other map that you've shown us is it shows drumlins.
Yay.
And I do know you love drumlins, Ken.
Go back.
Yes.
Topography.
Oh, hold on. I.
Oh,
hold
you
on.
killed it? Never mind.
No, I didn't kill it. This just decided to jump up. Yes.
Okay. Notice
The old map had
the
Pony
highest,
Rock,
the highest,
the highest elevation and the lowest elevation
right.
are called out. It also had stars on Coney Rock and Chestnut Hill.
Why?
I don't know. That's why we took them out.
Yeah.
I looked really hard. I read the text. I was like, are they specifically being called out as reference points? I don't think so. Maybe there are pictures somewhere in this that are on those locations. They're like this, but it doesn't show up on other maps. And if I were telling, no, this is a picture location for our plan, that I would have expected it to be throughout. So we took those out, but we do call out highest and lowest elevation.
Which we don't really need.
Why do we, yeah.
But I'm
We-
glad you took it out. I just.
Would we like to try to accentuate? We tried to do a little bit more accentuation with the greens to make it obvious what's deeper versus
Yeah.
what's lighter. Do we want
Yeah.
to play that up a little bit more? I
well-
think this looks easier to
Yeah, well,
follow.
the highest elevation where it's actually on Yukon land is irrelevant to any town planning. And the lowest elevation, if you think about it, is obvious. It's where the Natchog River leaves town. You know, so there's no information conveyed by those 2 points.
But I think you do, with the degree of contour depth that you get here, you do really get to see where we have some incredibly steep drop offs.
Yeah, that,
And the low area here, you do. get to
the map
see-
is useful. I'm just articulating my personal feeling that lowest and highest is interesting trivia, but not useful information.
Oh, I'm also happy to take these off. They're,
But you know, that, what I see is just, I see the river channel and it didn't occur to me that the darker green was showing tighter contours. So I really didn't understand this map at all. And I saw the road network, I saw the blue, and I saw some snakes and, you know,
Yeah,
it's really weird that Rudy's map really does bring out
Yeah.
the topography much better.
Yeah, this basically, because of the tightness of the contours, shows you the steepness of the slopes.
Yeah.
If you understand what that's about, otherwise it just looks like they took a heavy magic marker down the
Yeah.
Benton River.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of is just how topography maps are, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, we can understand this, but if somebody, some layperson
Yeah.
in the town
probably
council looked
wouldn't.
at this, I don't know that it would.
No.
yeah, you have to bring some knowledge to it, the same as most maps.
What if Rudy's map was here to follow this map and identified uplands and valleys?
Yeah.
You know, something, so you sort of had a different graphic
Yeah, what was
that
it, was,
showed the same information. So
Yeah.
it was easier for a layperson to.
yeah, color
understand.
coding it by height,
Color-
but
color
by
code.
elevation,
And-
That's how army maps are.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
it makes sense. I'm gonna try it. We're gonna see how it looks.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that would make this more accessible to someone who isn't used to looking at topographic
Yeah.
maps.
Yeah. I stare at maps too much. I've lost the ability to tell when something's difficult to.
And where,
Well,
you see the drumlins on this map, Ken?
do.
Yeah.
Where, I don't see them, I don't know how to see them.
So,
So they're flat and
Well,
high.
there's Horse Barn, if you look at that Horse Barn Hill Road,
I can't read it.
that's where,
Oh, Horse Barn Hill, I can see the shape.
yeah, right, I mean,
Yeah.
that's where the drumlin is.
Okay.
But, and that was another nice thing about that map, was it did point out geologic features. And I think this would just make the town
Yeah,
topography more accessible to the layperson.
Yeah.
I do,
yeah, changing.
and don't get into all of this.
View shed class.
Floor. and
Yeah,
view shed.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just do like uplands and valleys, what do I wanna say,
Oh,
river
not-
valleys,
Not this map per se,
no,
but something that is
Yeah.
more accessible to a layperson
Yeah.
than who's not used to reading contours.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, I just.
Yeah,
I'll see what I can do.
Just doing uplands and river valleys alone would be helpful to a layperson.
I will see what I can do.
So what's the stippled stuff?
That's view shed class 1-8. Yeah,
Uh.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry I asked.
Hold on.
No,
Highly sensitive classification because of the interplay of all the scenic elements that provide Zeus's intense scenic impact, critical areas for preservation.
And that's based on topography, or that's based on he saw something he liked?
Yes,
Uh,
on the view, what is the view?
you see the junkyard and the Tetons.
Right,
Ah. Well, I mean, there are a few places in town where it would be a real tragedy if they put up the towers. What is the standard? You know, it really.
Yeah, when they were gonna put up the tower, the tower that ended up up by Bicentennial. We were out one day and the way they decided whether it was going to wreck a view or not is they had this big red balloon.
yeah,
And they
Uh-huh.
put the big red balloon up and see if the big red balloon shows up in the scene.
Uh-huh.
And then we got to sit and look at like 25 pictures of various places in town with or without a big red balloon in it. It was just really funny.
I was, couple of weeks ago, I was driving through Norfolk and was reminded of how ugly Pinus celluli is.
it's my favorite green tree. All right. I think I have direction and preliminary thoughts on maps. That's all good. So with that said,
Okay, do we have any members' reports?
Just the October turned out to be, we had two really nice walks and we had one that was torrential rain. So we didn't do our third walk.
Oh. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No.
I've
no,
heard
it was-
from Meatloaf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Singer.
yeah. Do we have need for executive session?
No,
Hmm.
I don't think so. Does anyone? Great.
Hmm.
Let's say no.
Okay, we already talked about future meetings.
Yes,
Okay, so that brings us to item 10.
leaving.
Adjournment.
Last meeting of the year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
And we'll have some site walks, but
Okay, so the entertain a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Anybody opposed?
okay,
Okay,
we're done. Thank you, Juliana.
thank you.